Och, it's Marsha Mayhem from Marsha's Monster Boats. You know, like a monster truck. Imagine like a fucking boat. It's really big, but it's like a speedboat, like the size of a houseboat, but like a speedboat. It's a monster boat. Zoom through the seas. Don't go that far. They're not great, like, for the deep oceans. But, like, you can zoom around the bay. The Scottish Lochs. The Scottish Highlands. But at sea. The North Sea and its oil. We use our monster trucks to deploy monster oil. Come to Martha's Mayhem Boats to get some monster boats. We also sell Marsha's micro boats, like a regular speedboat but much smaller. They're for children, little people, cats, all sorts of... You just put your cat in a little micro boat. You know, come up. We've only got one store. It's in Edinburgh, Aberdeen. Well, we've got two. It's one in both. So come on up to Martha's Mayhem Monster Boats.
This anxiety is crushing me. Yikes.
Anyway, yeah, if you dip it too light, it's like it's nothing. Then you just have a wet cookie. When you hold it, it's good because then it's all like moist and it tastes like tea and a cookie. But like it's such like an immediate shift.
It's a biscuit.
Biscuit cookie, like what? It's not like it's not a Jats, which is well, what's the separation between a cracker, a biscuit, and a cookie?
A biscuit is like one of these sweet little guys that you would dip into a tea. And cookie is like the proper things that you put onto a pan that are made out of like cookie dough.
But a honey jumble you would make out of a gingerbread dough and put in an oven.
No, but it's a biscuit, isn't it?
No,
Cookie is like a stereotypical cookie in a round shape.
This is a round shape.
I consider cookies a round shaped thing that's either like chocolate, vanilla, and has chips in it. Like chocolate chips or white chocolate chips, whatever. And then everything else, the things that you buy in packets that look like these, that snap or look like those, they're biscuits.
But this is made of a gingerbread dough with icing on it. Like, it's literally a cookie. It's just an oval instead of a circle.
A honey jumble.
How am I Americanizing it? That's what it is.
No, Americans call everything a cookie that is a biscuit. And then they call a savory piece of bread a biscuit, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah, but they call, like, a scone a biscuit. Like, they're nuts.
They're crazy. But that's not a cookie. What an American term for it.
What? It's just,
Australian
if it was
classic.
a circle instead of an oval and didn't historically be dipped in tea, you'd call it a cookie.
It's an Australian classic, and you've reduced it to an American...
Reduced it?
Yeah.
Cookies are amazing.
They are, but that's not a cookie.
Well, where does it also go from, like, is the difference between a biscuit and a cracker just savory or sweet?
Totally. I find a biscuit is always sweet, and a cracker is always savory.
Yeah, because a cracker, I mean, a cracker is usually a bit more brittle as well. You know, and they always like
They're
to proudly
lighter.
declare that they're baked, not fried.
You'd never dip a cracker into a cup of tea. The lines between a cookie and a biscuit in Australia are very small and very thin. But I feel it important to retain the Australian use of the word biscuit for sweet things that you would dip into a tea, and cookies are for those like really stereotypical cookies in that round shape with those chips in them.
Well, it's not that I'm necessarily, like, I agree that, like, a biscuit is different from a cookie. I'm just saying I don't know where the line is. What you're eating right now is definitely a biscuit. It's
And what
definitely
you're
not
eating
a cookie.
It's definitely a biscuit.
Right, but I'm saying I don't understand why. Because, I mean, it is made of a dough. It's relatively circular. It's got icing on it.
I'd never call a piece of gingerbread a cookie either. I'd call it a biscuit, no matter what shape it's in.
What, you call a gingerbread house a biscuit?
Biscuit house. I wouldn't call it a cookie house.
Well, I mean, why would you not call it a gingerbread house? Why would you call it a biscuit house?
It's one or the other, babe.
Also, what's that one? You know how, like, when you get, like, the assortment packs that we all know, especially from, like, school camps where, like, the meal is, like, white bread, deli meats, cheese, and then for, like, after that there's tea, and then there's the big, like, Arnotts assortment things.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, there's the ones with the orange filling in the middle that are kind of gross. There's, like, 6 Monte Carlos that everyone fights over. There's the ones that are just, like, chocolate cookies.
Monte Carlos are amazing.
Monte Carlos are so good. My grandpa really liked Monte Carlos.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the Kingsford? Kensington? Kingsford's?
Kingsford's
those,
alright.
like, ones with those chocolate bits?
Yeah.
They're not alright. They were amazing. They were the best thing in the whole box.
Monte Carlos are the only ones that got, like, the chewiness, right?
I don't like Monte Carlos.
What the fuck are those ones where it's, like... where it's like the Montezuma logo, where it's like some sort of, it's either like a Chinese dragon or an Aztec king. Like, what the fuck were those ones? There's some sort of like mythological where the wild things are creature, and it was just a plain fucking biscuit. It wasn't even like the Nice biscuits where it was just like sugar coated. Which, by the way,
Nice biscuits were the best.
They're the best for with tea. Because all you want is just sugary plain biscuit.
To make a cheesecake base out of.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Scotch fingers.
Scotch fingers.
Those are the best things to dip into a cup of milk because it just melts. Once you dip it into the milk and you put it into your mouth, it just disintegrates into this beautiful, like, biscuity paste. It's so good.
A Scotch finger, I feel, is the closest a biscuit gets to just butter.
Yeah. That's why it's so good.
It's so buttery.
It's like 90% butter and then like the 10% flour.
Oh my
god. It's perfect.
It's really good. It's like shortbread without being shortbread.
Also, on this note of what's a biscuit, what's a cookie, I think the Australian, like the way that we describe hot chips is insane. Because what we did is that in America, they call the hot thing fries and then the cool thing chips. And then in England, they call the hot thing chips and then the cool thing crisps. And what we did is that we took chips from England and chips from the US and called them both chips.
I've seen that expressed as like a chart.
It's ridiculous. Why do we have hot chips and then normal like kettle chips? That's insane. We shouldn't have done that. We should have thought it through more.
It makes it really hard, but it's also very complicated when I'm trying to express that I like chips, because whether I'm talking about sea salt Smith's chips or whether I'm talking about like hot chips, both of them is the answer to I love them, but I'm in very different moods.
I think that the English got it right. I'm more on like the English side of crisps and chips than I am on the side of fries, just because fries, like, there's so many things that are fried.
Well, there's a lot of things that are crispy.
Why is a strip of potato... That's true. But there's so many... Fuck off. Like, why is this long strip of potato suddenly, like, the one and only fry? Like, that's not the only thing that's fried. I know that there's other things that are crispy, right?
Yeah.
However, chips as a hot term, like, as a term for the hot food is great. Crisps, they are crispy. Welcome to Anxietea.
Yeah, welcome to Anxietea.
We've been away.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're back.
We're
for
back.
vengeance.
So crazy right now. We're back. Oh, yeah.
It's been 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Lots to catch up on.
Recommendation gonna... Boom. Nietzsche. Oh.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche. Oh. Yeah, they're reacting to Nietzsche.
They love Nietzsche. That whole Ubermensch thing gets them hot and steamy.
That is one super mensch. Oh, yeah. Is that what your recommendation is?
Yeah, my recommendation corner is anything that inspired Hitler and the rise of the Nazi Party.
Anything at all?
Anything. What's your recommendation?
So I recommend... I've been rewatching Battlestar Galactica, which we've talked about before, like, is a show that suffers from the fact that it's really good TV before anybody gave a shit about really good TV. It's like, it literally finished in 2009, like, right as peak TV was beginning. And yeah, when I was rewatching the first season in particular, like, I will defend the later seasons of that show, which I know some people don't like, and it does get slower. But, like, that first season, every single episode, I'm like, oh, I remember this one. I remember this one. They all felt like iconic episodes. And I was like, this show is tight. Like,
yeah.
It's really well-paced and well-structured. Because, yeah, every single bit felt iconic.
Yeah.
And that's something that I can't even say for the remaining seasons, which some do have episodes that I like more. But they're not all... There is more kind of filler as it goes on, because it goes from a 13-episode season show to a 20-episode season. Yeah, and I would recommend that because I feel like it doesn't get the same tier of respect that it should. I think partly because it's a big dorky show. I mean, it's space and robots, and the pilot especially is probably the nerdiest episode of the whole thing. But it's all really grounded. It's all really based around human interaction. So it's probably less nerdy and intense than Game of Thrones is, where you have to understand a new universe's rules and all of these different factions of people. Like, they're all just people who live in a different planet, and then they can't live on the planet anymore. That's my recommendation. I think everybody should go back, even if you've watched it, rewatch it, like, because it's better than you remember it, and if you haven't watched it, you'll enjoy it more than you think you will.
That show is good.
It's a good one. I was like, I love this show. First time I watched it, I was like, this is my favorite show now, and then I rewatched it, and I'm like, oh no, that's why. What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is every week I seem to do music. And even though I've got one for music, I'm going to make an active effort to not choose that. My recommendation will be okay, fuck it. It'll just be music again. Fuck it. Sorry about that. My recommendation is a Melbourne band called Dick Diver. They're great. They do a lot of different sounds. They also, all members of the band split into their own different bands so that they can, like, explore a different genre, which is really, really cool. And there's a woman in Dick Diver called Steph Hughes that does really good art, and I would also recommend just checking out her Instagram, because the art that she does is really sick and looks really interesting, and she has really interesting ideas. And she's just like a cool lady from Melbourne, so nice. She's a cool artist and musician, part of a really good band called Dick Diver. And if you like indie 90s, but also like a lot of different genres, you should listen to Dick Diver, because they do kind of everything. They're sick. And I bought their album when I was in Melbourne. Yeah. Go listen to Dick Diver.
Nice.
Also, the reason I didn't want to launch right into it is because we were gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So as a quick catch up.
Yeah.
We didn't do 2 episodes because I went to Melbourne. And that was very exhausting. And I didn't want to do the podcast that week. Because even though I had the opportunity, I was too tired. And then the week before that, we're kind of like, we have like 4 listeners. So why should we if we don't feel like it? Yeah. So we just didn't.
I think we'd organize something for the usual night we record, and then we were literally busy every single other day.
Yeah, it's been really hard to fit it in recently.
We've been really busy.
And really tired.
This is not bragging, this is complaining.
Massive complaining. I'm sick of it. I would like to be able to have a night where I feel energized to make something, but that is so far few in between these days. But anyway, I went to Melbourne. That was really great. I went with my close friend Lauren. My close friend, that sounds weird. I went with my friend Lauren. We went down to Melbourne. We had a great time. She was on Tinder 80% of the time, and she got a great result. We checked out some really nice
She's
suburbs.
a Dick Diver, right?
She is a Dick Diver. They were inspired by Lauren when we went down to Melbourne. They formed actually only 3 days ago, guys. No, but yeah, we had a great time. And it was really fun. We drank a lot. Lauren fell down a full flight of stairs. And even though she immediately asked me not to tell anyone, here I am announcing it on a podcast. But it was great. I had a great time. But you've also had a big week.
Yeah.
And this is why we're doing the topic that we're doing this week.
Yeah.
What happened with your job this week?
Well, because I work several jobs, but one of them accounts for like 2/3 of my income, if not more. And they decided to not renew my contract because, as far as I remember, this is what I gathered from the way they phrased it, which is that because there's a lot more work coming, they want someone less skilled who can work more hours for less money.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's sound business choices. I've worked there for 2.5 years, and then I just kind of got very unceremoniously dumped for being too skilled and not wanting to work full time. But they didn't even ask if I wanted to work full time. They were like, we just want someone who's cheaper. There wasn't like, we've got lots of stuff coming. We need someone with more hours. can you do more hours? It was really like, well, we need someone who can do more, so we're letting you go. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't really get a choice to kind of go like, could I maybe save my job? It was like I said, it was a very unceremonious dumping that I did not see coming.
And I had such a great time in Melbourne and was so inspired by the people there and the places there and how much I want to move to Northcote that I came back and realized that I was much more unhappy with my circumstances than I ever thought.
Yeah.
So this episode is about
Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
I know, it's all about Steve Jobs.
I'm really sad.
What a hero.
He's gone, he's dead. But
Still hurts.
this is in honor of the new iPhone.
Yeah.
Whatever one that is.
XS.
Yeah.
Sorry, 10S. They don't want us to say XS.
XS sounds apt.
Yeah, no. I've got a topic to start with Jobs.
Okay.
Because in my particular line of work as an editor, right, one of the biggest fucking difficulties is the line between full-time work and contract work.
Yeah.
Because so far, everywhere I've worked, even full-time, I'm still a contractor. I'm just a permanent contractor, which all it does is just remove my employee rights. But the main thing is just that when applying for jobs, like the two options are either 5 days a week at a media agency doing fuck all, or contracting. And contracting means either like 2 weeks of work and then 4 weeks of no work, or it means like one job every 3 weeks. It's such a hard line because if you go full time, you can't do anything else. And there's really no room, there's nowhere to go. Like, nobody in TV gives a shit if you have corporate experience. They only care about broadcast experience. Same thing with film and TV, film and shorts and stuff. So you can't really translate those skills or experience, but like, you can't afford to be a contractor unless you've been a contractor for like 6 years and you have all those contacts. Like, I don't know job-wise how you're meant to get to that point, possibly. I've been trying as hard as I can by working 3 jobs at once, and so far it has landed me losing my job. Like, I don't. It's such a frustrating thing with a contracted style job, in that like all the actual good narrative stuff, you need to know somebody who's already making a thing. But you don't meet them unless you're working on them.
Well, I work full-time, and my main anxiety around my job at the moment is the fact that there's so much customer interaction. I find people really hard to deal with and to understand, and they're so unpredictable and can be so difficult and make my job so much harder. Mainly, it's like the customers that make it difficult, but, you know, it's also like inter-work relationships that are also difficult, and it's obviously awkward to talk about in a podcast. So I'm never going to go into too much detail. But in terms of customers, right, I think, like, we just had, like, this big sale on over the weekend, and I had to work both days. And I think I spoke to maybe, like, 300 to 400 people within the space of 2 days. And it's exhausting talking to people. You are at their demand. Like, you have to be whatever they want you to be when you're at work. And every time I'm there, I'm always looking at the customer being like, I want to be you today. I want to be the person that's strolling into a store and you're not under any obligation to anyone. You're just browsing. I want to be that. Yeah. But instead I'm here and running around for you. Every day I wake up anxious about work because I'm anxious about the people that I'm going to have to meet. People are terrible.
Yeah. And teaching is like that too, where it's like, all right, I got to interact with minimum 20 people for like 6 hours. And usually when walking from room to room, a student will go like, hey, can you help me with this thing? Yeah. So like, I get you, but I have the very, very fortunate advantage of I'm not teaching 5 days a week. Yeah. So I'm always like, I mean, admire, but admire is not the word I'm looking for. Like, I don't know. I don't know the right word, but I was feel for you having to interact with that many people, like, almost every day.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, I hate working full-time. This is probably one of the first jobs that I've ever worked full-time. Yeah. When I think about it. Because my first job was at a cafe. And that was honestly the biggest anxiety trip of my life. I think I spent 11 months in constant anxiety every time I was working at that place. Yeah. Because now that I look back on it, I was totally underpaid. Like, they were, like, paying me below minimum wage. I think they were paying me, like, $10 an hour.
Jesus.
$10 an hour at that cafe. And that's the reason I got hired, is that I came in and I was like, I can start ASAP and work whatever days you want. Ha ha ha. And I was 17 and they were like, great, let's capitalize on her innocence by paying her $10 an hour and overworking her.
So George Calamobara has hired you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's that?
He's the guy from MasterChef who has 50 restaurants that didn't pay people the right amount.
Nice. Little Australian in-joke there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I worked at that cafe for ages, but it was in, like, the middle. I grew up in Rose Bay, which is a very affluent suburb of Sydney, and the people there are always an issue because a lot of them are really wealthy, have no time for mistakes, have no time for waitresses in particular, and they demand the best service in the world. So, like, every day was an anxiety trip of trying to learn how to be an employee, how to learn how to work with other people, how to make my boss happy, and she was never happy with me. She was actually, on reflection, an extremely abusive manager.
Yeah.
And also just trying to deal with all these people that I suddenly had to interact with. I was so shy. I hated going up to check on people and see how their meal was. And I knew I had to. I was always getting told off for not asking people how the meal was. Because I didn't like striking up the conversation. I just wanted to swoop in, take their plates, and disappear.
Yeah.
And then my next job and that was like, I only worked there like 2 or 3 days a week. And then my next job after that was Smart Salary, which was like a 2-year job. And I liked it because it wasn't talking to people face to face, it was over the phone, and I got really good at that. You can really disconnect with that. So when I think back to that job, it was much more comfortable, and I was there for 2 years on a part-time basis.
You don't have
because I went to film school and then I dropped out and never told them so I could stay part-time. And then my next job was Moss River.
Yeah.
Which I worked there as technically a casual, but it got to a point where I was working 5 to 6 days a week. And I got so stressed out by doing that I had a back spasm.
Yeah.
And you were there that night.
I remember.
When I was just so stressed from my day and so anxious that my entire back spasmed and I had to take 4 days off work. So yeah, I've never been a massive... Can you fucking stop? I've never been a massive full-time worker, but there's definitely a history of hating talking to people.
Yeah.
But I also hate working in an office environment. At least when you talk to people, at least that anxiety is like an adrenaline rush that gets me through my day and gets me to that 5 p.m. mark. But honestly, this job that I have right now is the first full-time job that I've ever had, and I'm finding it really hard. Because it means I have no time for myself. I always feel overworked and tired, and I never feel like I have enough money.
Yeah, I applaud the labor movement that got us these hours that we have now, but it's also still definitely too much. Like, they've studied and shown that if people work 4 days a week, they do the same amount of work because they're so exhausted from working 5 days a week that they do less work on average each day.
Exactly. I'm just hoping that, like, the company that I work for, like, take a dive in sales and they're like, we can't afford to pay someone an extra day. And I'll be like, I'll take the fall. I'll go down to 4 days a week. I'm a hero. I'm doing you a favor.
No, but the problem is when people do that, they just fire somebody.
Yeah, that's true. God, I don't care anymore.
But that's part of what I mean in terms of, like, that's part of what I was trying to get at before with contracting, where, like, I'm at a point where some months I have the great advantage of working like 2 or 3 days a week, right? And I don't want to not acknowledge that's lucky. But then, like, there was 4 to 5 months at the beginning of the year where I was working 6 to 7 days a week and like 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I'm still just barely affording anything now.
Yeah.
So that huge variance creates like a lot of anxiety because I'm like, I don't know how to plan for a few months in advance because I don't know what the workflow is going to be like between now and then. If somebody's like, can you do this thing in 3 months? I'm like, well, give me another 2 months to figure out how much work I'm doing. Because I might say, like, yes, I'm going to be free I did that. I said to a friend who shot a documentary that I was going to cut that has no time limit, oh yeah, I'll be able to get this done because in July I've got no work. And then in July I ended up having a whole bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Most of it underpaid, but still I needed to do it. And I was just like, oh, I can't actually do this at all, even though I said like 4 months ago that I would have all the time in the world to do it. And it's so anxious. I do get the advantage of I don't always need to interact with as many people, but sometimes that can be a real disadvantage. When I was cutting feature film at the end of last year, I took some time off my other job so that I could finish it, because I had deadlines that I promised that I realized I couldn't do if I was still working full time. Something about not being able to work full time and cut a feature film.
Crazy.
I know, it's weird. And it meant that I had about a month where I was editing in a little sort of back granny flat that I had, but almost exclusively by myself. Like, my housemates at the time were never home, and because I was in the granny flat, I never interacted with them anyway. Abby was working a lot and wasn't able to come over as much, and so it was really just kind of alone by myself in like 30-degree heat, just editing, and I went fucking nuts. Like, it was too much just staring at footage over and over and over again with no human interaction day in and day out.
But that's the awful thing, is that like you kind of lose both ways. If you have a job with no human interaction, you're lonely and you go kind of crazy over time. But if you have a job with too much human interaction, like me, I come home and I'm like, don't fucking talk to me. I've just talked to everyone all day. I don't want to talk to you right now. And that makes me a worse person. It means that I'm spending most of my day talking to people I don't want to talk to, and not the people that I want to talk to.
Yeah.
Because I spent all of my energy on people I don't care about. It's awful. And every time I think about changing jobs, I'm like, I know I'd change it. And then within 4 months, I'd be back here again. I'll be thinking, ugh, I hate my job. What if I tried this job instead? I am a job mover arounder. I haven't held down a solid job since Smart Salary, and I left that 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, neither of us like settling very much.
Yeah, I get restless and I get bored.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like, Smart Salary, like, made me depressed as hell. I hated working there. It was a call center. Customers were really abusive. The people I worked with were often very boring. There was a couple of people that were fun to work around, but, like, they were kind of young, lost people that never, this sounds mean, but never, like, inspired or motivated me. They were often just people that would share with me the thought of, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'd be like, me neither. We're wasting time and treading water.
Yeah.
And spending the best days of our lives working behind a computer. Yeah! And then would go out for drinks and forget about it.
Yeah.
So it was terrible. But, like, at least there was a lot less responsibility, stress, customer interaction, a little bit more pay sometimes. Yeah. And also, like, a little bit more stability. I don't know. I know I hated that job, but because it's been 2.5 years, I'm like, yeah, but what if I went back?
Well, you could do a, like, call center job again.
Yeah.
Just for a different place.
Oh, it's all terrible.
It's all terrible.
What I hold down at the moment is a blue-collar job.
Yeah.
Like, it's what anyone can do, and it's a retail or customer-serving job.
It's the modern version of a blue-collar job.
It
because
is.
There are very few working-class jobs now, because all of that trade work has been largely outsourced. Like, the service economy is the new version of, like, miners and loggers and all of that sort of shit.
If you work in retail, if you work in hospitality, or if you just work in customer service in general, you've got what is now considered a blue-collar job.
Yeah, which, side note, to get weird for a moment, is why it's absolutely nuts that they're trying to build new coal plants to save jobs. That whole style of job is going. Mining is now a very specialized skill. Focus on making service jobs better.
Yeah.
Because that's the new lower class job.
Absolutely. And that's what I have at the moment. And hopefully, if I do my master's in screenwriting, I can break out of that. But it's how I have to make money. If I want to do anything creative, I need money. And to make money, I have to do a blue-collar job because I'm not qualified for anything else.
Yeah. I've said to you before, that's what makes me so anxious about applying for jobs, and that, like, I've been editing for a few years now. And for one thing, that makes me underqualified still for a lot of editing jobs. But it also means I have a very specialized skill. I'm not qualified for most stuff. Like, I don't know how to do many things at all.
Yeah.
It's really like, if I don't have an editing job, I'm only qualified to do, like, service jobs.
Yeah.
Like, it's stuff that anyone can do.
And the thing is, like, I've never been focused on money. So when I look at someone's job and I envy it, it's never out of the fact that they might get paid more than me. That's never been something I've focused on. But I do want a job that I look forward to in the morning. I just don't foresee one for a long time. Like, I'll always be stuck in a make money kind of environment where I'm just struggling to get by, struggling to save money so I can do things I actually want to do. And it's miserable. It makes me miserable.
Oh, that's why. One good thing, sometimes you'll meet bosses or managers who get it.
Yeah.
Because I've, over the last few weeks, gotten some freelance jobs from a particular guy who every time he gives it to me, he's like, this is a good way to make some extra cash. I'm like, good. You understand I'm not doing this because I give a single shit about Purina's social media campaign.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because it's an extra $500.
Exactly. And I love managers like that as well.
Yeah.
When they're just like, look, I know this isn't what you want to do. I know that your dream was never to work in a call center. People that understand that are the best bosses. Because if someone, when I did that stupid smart salary interview, they were like, why do you want to work here? And I was like, what the fuck do you want me to say? Of course I want to work here because I want you to give me money.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I'm here. I want you to give me money, and in return, I'll do whatever you tell me to for a bit.
Well, also, like, as an extra note on that, like, part of the reason I got let go from the job I have right now, during the whole "we're letting you go" interview, they were like, well, you've said you're unhappy and you've said that you feel undervalued. And I'm like, fuck. Other places I've worked, when I say that, they go, okay, how can we make it better?
Exactly.
Not fire me.
Well, that job environment that you had was always toxic. They're like,
Yeah.
I want you to be pumped for your work. I always want you to do the best, and I want you to love working here, but we're not going to treat you right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll never make you like a proper employee. We'll keep you at a casual, so we don't have to give you employee benefits.
For 2 years, working very, very consistently.
Yeah. It's good that they've dumped you.
Yeah.
Because you'll long-term be more happy, but short-term you will be stressed about money for a little bit.
Well, that's why, like, I find it weird. So, like, with managers in retail or hospitality environments, there's two kind of options they can go to make their team pumped. The bad one is when they go, you need to love working here. That's crazy, because almost nobody is working in those jobs because they love that specific workplace. Nobody is dreaming of working at that particular shop or whatever.
Yeah.
The other way is you can make the team like each other.
Yeah.
Because when you like your team, it is more fun to work there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you like the people that you work around, that really can help any shitty job that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm always, like, right now I really like a lot of the people that I work with. But at the same time, if I'm in the same position in 6 months, I may kill myself.
Yeah.
I don't think I can stay where I am for that long.
No, I get you. I said if my next job is just another media company, I'd probably jump out of the high rise it's in. Like,
absolutely.
And I get you. It's less about the actual work environment and more about the restlessness of it, because you feel like you're wasting time when you're there for such a long period.
Exactly. My dream job is to have a job that I can find easy, pays me well, and I can forget about when I go home.
Yeah.
And right now I have a job that I find easy.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I can, and I can semi-forget about it when I get home, but I don't feel like it pays me well enough. And I also don't feel like I have a moment any day that I'm at work to just think about other things.
Yeah.
I did have it, like, my job before at, like, a bed linen place. That was so laid back. Because, like, if you had a quiet day, you could just, like, do whatever you wanted. So I'd sit behind the counter and I'd read. Or I'd sit behind the counter and I would write a little bit. I'd bring my laptop and I'd do work.
Yeah.
But at this new place, there's no chance for that. So I always have to be completely switched on and doing work all the time. And to be honest, it sounds terrible and selfish, but I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate working hard. And I hate working 5 days a week.
Well, because it's hard to work hard when you don't care about it.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're in an environment where you're required to work hard and you don't care about it.
I have no job aspirations within the field that I'm in.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to a job interview, and I was unemployed for 4 months this year, so I went to a couple this year.
Yeah.
When I went to a job interview and they were like, what's your, like, you know, your end goal aspirations if you worked for a company like us? I was always baffled.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to lie to you, but I have no plans in moving up in this system.
Yeah.
I want you to hire me, but I don't think I'll stick around forever.
Yeah. I'll try my hardest to be the best low-level employee.
Exactly.
And then fuck off after a few years.
Exactly. And that's what else is upsetting, is that I feel like if I admit my long-term plan is completely outside of retail, they won't want me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she doesn't want to stay in retail for the rest of her life. She has other goals. Okay, we don't want her.
Well, that's why I'm jealous of the editor friends I know who work in broadcast, even if it's reality TV where it's a bunch of bullshit and, you know, a lot of reality TV is kind of evil. But it's still like you get a 6-week contract. You work 50-hour weeks, like 10 hours a day. So you just work. All you do is work and sleep for that 6 weeks. And then you get like 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
Before your next one.
Yeah.
Because then you're just gathering a lot of money. You live cheaply, work really hard. And then for that 4 weeks, I could write. I could edit a narrative project where I'm not going to get paid as much. Like I could do a personal thing Whereas right now, when it's like 5-6 days of a bunch of stuff, it's really hard on the last day of the week to do anything apart from fall asleep.
The main upsetting thing about having a job is that what I'm doing right now, there's no job that I can feasibly get, except for one, which I didn't get.
Yeah.
There's no job that I could get that is in my line of work at the moment. I've graduated from film school and I want to do my master's, but there's no screenwriting jobs out there that you can go to 5 days a week and make a bunch of money in. Yeah. There's no line of work that I want to build myself up in. I want to be a screenwriter, so I kind of need a dead-end job where I can just turn off, do the work, make money, go home and use the money for things that I really want to do and work on my projects. But if I'm working 5 days a week, it takes every ounce of energy out of me. So I come home and I'm like, I'm just going to watch a movie and go to bed. So now I'm making money, I suppose, but I'm not doing my actual personal work, which means that I'm worried I'll be stuck in this cycle of terrible retail for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And the thought of that, like, I will kill myself. I cannot, and I'm not saying that lightly. Like, I have no backup plan.
Yeah.
I only want to be a screenwriter. And if I don't manage to do that, there is nothing for me.
I remember when I was in high school and people did not take the joke very well. When I got really into The Office, I'm like, I like Jim Halpert, but if I have to live his life, I will kill myself.
Yeah.
Not because those sorts of environments are bad. I know I've worked in office environments where some of the people there are really, really happy and satisfied.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be happy or satisfied doing 6 weeks of 50-hour weeks and then 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
I think they would hate that. Like, it's kind of different modes of operation, and it's really hard to work in one that's not your mode of operation.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have a lot of anxiety around my job because I feel like I'm heading the wrong way all the time. I feel like I'll never get anywhere, and I feel like it makes me a sadder, less inspired and motivated person. Working 5 days doesn't work for me, but I need the money this year. So I definitely feel like 2018, because of where I am and what I'm doing, if I look back on it, it's not going to be at all close to one of my favorite years. Because I spent most of it looking for a job, getting a job, and then just working a lot.
I've certainly spent a lot of it very stressed out.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of it very sad and upset.
Yeah.
This has been a rough year. It's just I need the money. And as soon as I have a safe amount of money to sit on, then I'm going to drop down and work 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Just so I can scrape by each week and still have my savings.
We live pretty cheaply.
And actually do film work like I want to.
Yeah.
I want to spend way more time writing than sitting behind a desk helping people select a fucking chair for their dining room. I hate it.
Do you want to do a tip of the day? It feels like a good time for tip of the day.
Tip of the day.
Yeah. Do you have a tip?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't. You caught me off guard.
My bad. Okay.
No, you go first. I'll go second.
Okay. So amongst the several things I feel like I give a tip on, one is that, like, I mean, there's the obvious, like, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, you can just try different things. But there's also, figure out the best way that you work. Because when I dropped down at the place that now let me go from 3 days to 2 days. And for a little bit, that kind of wasn't great because it meant that I had a lot of time where I was doing nothing. And I hated that just as much as working all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas some people really, really thrive when they're working a lot. Because then they feel like they're providing value all the time. Whereas I know I feel like I can work, say, 6 weeks, really intense, and then I'll need some time where I work less, right? So, like, figure out what works for you, whether it's it's like 3 days a week consistently, or full time consistently, or whether it's like bursts of work and then bursts of less time. You know, like, that can help you kind of figure out what sort of job you look for, because all different fields have jobs like that. I mean, in corporate environments, I've seen executives who come on for a particular project for, say, 4 months where they're working 4 days, and then they go to 1 day a week for the next 3 months until the next big major thing. So, like, there's kind of always ways that you can do that and give yourself kind of the space that you need, or the lack of space that you want. That's my convoluted tip.
Wait, so summarize it?
Figure out the best way that you work and then try and find a job with that work style. So again, with to use the example of editing, you know, if you work best full time, then fucking corporate work is the best for you, because there's lots of production companies that do corporate work that require people every day of the week. Or TV is intense bursts of on and off. Or something like contracting, where you're kind of all over the place. I like sort of being all over the place, even though it stresses me out a lot. Yeah, I guess that's my tip. I don't know. It's 'cause it's hard to do, but it can be satisfying when you figure it out.
I think it's hard to give a tip for just something as vague as just jobs. Like, I guess my half-hearted tip is, like, if you think you're unhappy in your job, fucking change.
Yeah.
Fucking change your job. It's scary and it's hard, but if you are waking up and hating 5 days of the 7 days you get a week, you shouldn't live like that. No one should live like that. You shouldn't be hating 5/7 of your life at the moment, especially if you're young and you don't have to. I know that money is important and we should have money, but please make it in ways that make you happy. If you're happy with your job, that's great and that's very admirable and that's very rare. But if you're not, just change it and do it safely, do it thoughtfully, but start making preparations and start thinking about changing your circumstances. Because even if it's the same job but somewhere else, change is always good. Change is good.
The comedian and director Bobcat Goldthwait gave the advice of just quit, because eventually you'll find a place where you don't want to quit.
Exactly. Just quit.
Can I revise my tip as well?
Sure.
Which is that, like, an important kind of aspect of that is figure out what makes you productive, because... You know, one of the greatest tips I learned from you, where you learned at film school, is that people find it really hard to concentrate over a 4-block period of time. And after you told me that, I tried a day of editing where instead of trying to edit all throughout the day and not really doing much and getting stressed out really quickly, I had a 4-hour block in the morning and then a really big break in the middle of the day and then a 4-hour block at night. So it meant that effectively I had a 12-hour work day, but I had a 4-hour break in the middle.
Yeah. And
I got so much more work done that day.
Yeah.
Way more work done that day.
Honestly, and I feel it every day at work as well. It gets to about 1 p.m. and I've been there for 4 hours and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
I'm tired. People shouldn't work 8 hours in a row. It's not good for you. Even if it's just like your normal retail job or your call center job or your fucking mechanic job. Yeah. You shouldn't be working like 8-hour blocks. We should be working 4-hour blocks.
But I have met people, for example, who are really good at that 10-minute break every hour and then actually recharging on it, and they can work like 6 hours. But
then no job ever really lets you do that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, just listen to what you're feeling, and if you're hating your job, just quit.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds... I know if you're worried about, like, actually... the financial aspect of moving, that's fair, or that's totally valid, but save enough money so that if you need to quit, you can. Be smart with your money so that if you hate your job, you can fucking change to a different job. Yeah. And there is someone out there that's going to need someone like you. I'm terrified to leave my job in case I won't find another one for 4 months, but just keep living.
Just keep living.
Matthew McConaughey style. Yeah.
Nice.
To summarize, not my tip, but my view on jobs. Right now, jobs are making me miserable, and I can't foresee getting a job that will make me happy. But I think eventually I'm going to need a different job, because more than anything, I need to work with people that that have the same mindset and values as myself as well. And I have to say, like, right now, I don't think I work amongst people that have the same values as myself. I'm not money driven, but I think a lot of the people I work with are, and especially the bosses that I've worked under are, whereas I'm not, and I don't think I can keep working in an environment like that.
Well, that's why, on that same note, that's why I also say if you're doing multiple things, cling on to the thing that you do like, because me insisting on continuing teaching has made my job life excruciatingly difficult over the last 2 years. It's made it way more difficult than it should. But the school where I work, I get along with the staff. I like the staff. We all want the students to learn things, so we have that same value. Like, all the best jobs I've gotten, whether I've gotten paid for them or not, such as that feature, like, have come from people I know there.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel more fulfilled. And if I wasn't doing it, it would be easier to get other jobs, but I wouldn't give a shit about any of the other jobs I was doing.
Mm.
So, like, even if it's more difficult, sometimes it's good to cling on to the thing that you like.
Yeah. Can you play some piano?
Oh, okay. Do you want to do the same chord?
Yeah, just keep it simple though. Yeah. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. J is for just wake up and go to your monotonous job that you hate. Everyone's the worst and it's a nice day that you're gonna miss in a dark place. O is for overanalyzing what your colleagues say or what a customer might say to you. B is for brush it off. You've gotta go home and forget about eat. S is for something that you love. It's not your job. It's not your job. You hate your fucking job. It's the worst bit of your life. You spend 5 miserable days in a place you can't describe. It's like darkness. It's all darkness, fluorescent darkness. I fucking hate my job. I hate it. That's it. That's my whole acrostic. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, guys. You've been amazing. I'll be in Austin, Texas. I'll be in another bit of Texas. Then I'll be all over the place. Just like my mental state. It's all over the place. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a peaceful, shitty fucking day.
And if you're having a bad day at your job, or you've just come home from your bad job, have a cup of tea.
Or coffee.
Well, no, if you're feeling anxious, don't have coffee.
Coffee.
No, if you're feeling anxious, don't have coffee.
You should have some coffee.
If you're feeling anxious, don't have coffee.
You should have some coffee. It always makes me way happier.
Well,
Goodbye. Ever had your guitar string snap right before the big day? Ever have your piano disintegrate right as you start your concerto? Ever have your vocal cords snap because you screamed at the wizard down the hall? Well, boy, do we have the stuff for you. At Music Mash Mansion Masters, we got 'em all. From music to things that play music. 9 out of 10 musicians said that we had music in stock, and Music Magazine once described us as a place for music, redacted. And you'll get a 20% special discount if you enter in the promo code GetOutWizards25 in checkout or in person. Music Mash Mansion Masters for non-magical music Mashin' Masters.